welcome back to Guided Souls. I am your host, Katie, otherwise known as Guided Soul Katie on TikTok. And as always, I'm so excited to be back with you guys for another week. If you're listening to this and you're enjoying this podcast and you haven't already, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps me out so much, and I really appreciate it. Today we're talking about one of my favorite topics, which is manifesting, and I had the absolute honor of interviewing Fiona McConachie. She goes by Fee, and Fee is a manifestation coach. She's also a professional dancer, which is amazing, and I just had the best time asking her all of the things, because when I tell you every single question I asked in this interview directly related to something I was trying to figure out in my life, like I needed this information and it helped me a lot. So I know that you guys are going to enjoy it too. Fee offers masterclasses, ebooks, meditations. She has an It Girl membership. So if you are interested in learning more about Fee and the work that she does, head over to at Fiona McConachie on TikTok. And for the spelling of that, go ahead and check the show notes and it'll tell you exactly where to go. Hope you enjoy. Fiona, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I am so excited to be talking to you. I have all of the questions about manifesting. But before we dive into that, do you want to just take a moment to introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody listening. I'm Fee. Well, Fiona's the full name, but I go by Fee or Fee. I'm a manifestation and feminine energy expert. I'm also a professional dancer, and that's kind of my background of why I work with the body and why I'm so sort of in tune with that part of myself. I didn't have like the easiest journey with learning how to manifest and making it work. But kind of when it all clicked in, when I started using the body and using my feminine energy to bring in things, it started to change rapidly. And that's when I started to then put the work out there, if you like, and see what happened. And from there, it kind of just snowballed and created this, I don't know, this community on TikTok, which I love. And now that's really the work, is just putting it into the hands of as many people that want to learn this method of manifestation as possible.
So cool. I love that so much. When would you say was the first time that you realized manifesting was a thing? Like, how did you come across it? How did you hear about it?
When I was 17, my friend gave me the book The Secret. Now, so I'm 36 now, so this is like 19 years ago, right? So it's quite a long time that I've been doing it. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense, but this book is like, it's giving me surface level detail. I was like, this is not it's just giving me like, close your eyes and think about it, and it appears like Aladdin's genie. I was like, I'm not sure that I believe this, but I understand the concept of it. And I was able then to sort of piece back, and I feel like most people have this journey as well, which is that when you unlock the understanding of being like a co-creator, you can start to, with hindsight, look at moments in your life where it had really already fallen into place, where you'd already had a lot of examples of that. And actually, I think my first real example of that was getting into that performing arts school that I'd really wanted to. I really manifested that. And I'd really had sat imagining opening the letter and all of the things. And so from there, it just kicked off a self-development journey, if you like.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. I love that. And were you kind of looking into what other folks were saying about how to manifest, or is this like you just kind of did trial and error and saw what worked for you?
Kind of, but we didn't have social media in the same way then. Like, we didn't have internet on our phones. Instagram didn't exist. So there wasn't like the access to it in the same way that we can put manifestation in TikTok, and lots of creators come up with brilliant things to say to help you on the journey. And I love that. But for me, I was really in like the book section of Waterstones, which is kind of like your guys's foils, maybe, or this is like the big bookstores, right? That you go in. There's like that little like self-development section. Yeah. Like, okay, well, what else is here? You know, library books, speaking to other people, and then kind of trial and error of my own things. I'd always kept a journal, so I was like, okay, let me just delve into this a little more. And then it was really during the pandemic that I deepened into it being very embodied and being really in the body and going on that kind of journey with it.
Amazing. I love that so much. And I want to talk to you more about it being in the body and body magic as you refer to it. But before we get to that, we had a conversation maybe about a month ago just to, make sure that it was a good fit. And it was maybe a like 5 to 10 minute conversation. And just
Yeah.
like the little nuggets of information that you gave me in that conversation like changed the way that I have just been approaching my day-to-day life. So I
Oh,
just
that's
wanted to
amazing.
share that with you.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It was like you first mentioned the book 2x versus 10x, which
Yeah.
I ended up like it just kept coming up in my head over and over again. And when something like that happens, I'm like, okay, obviously I need to go like read or listen. So I listened to the book
Yeah.
on audio, and then also you're talking about the halfway house and how a lot of people will kind of aim for the halfway house. So can you kind of explain those concepts?
Yes, I'll go with the book first, the 2x versus 10x, which is really the concept that you might as well just go for the big goal and the thing that you want, because you're going to land much closer to it than going for your 2 times goal, which is what I call the halfway house. Because now, before I'd read this book, this is what I called it, right? Which is like people try to manifest the stepping stones, or what they think are the stepping stones to the thing that they actually want, rather than focusing the energy on what they actually want, because they can see, or the concept is that it's easier to have something smaller on the way than it is to have the big thing. But really, where that places your energy is in a lack of trust in yourself, and a lack of trust in the universe to deliver, a lack of trust that you can hold that manifestation. And so you never really get very far at all. And this is where most people are really stuck with manifestation. It isn't that they can't do it or they're not clear on what they want. It's just that there's not enough trust to focus on the big thing. There's not enough suspension of disbelief to really hold that new reality that they
Yeah.
desire.
Yeah, that like unlocked something in my brain because I've been putting a lot of work into this podcast and launching it, and I was really focused on getting like 1,000 subscribers on either Spotify or Apple. And after you said that, I was like, screw that! Like, I want 30,000 followers. I want
Exactly.
100,000 followers. And so
Exactly.
it's like I stopped checking what like the follower count was every day because I knew that like it wasn't going to blow up overnight and there was going to be something else that like came in that helped me get there. And I don't know what that is yet, but it's kind of like relieved this pressure of like, oh my gosh, yes, I got 10 more, like that's exhausting to do
Yeah.
when your actual goal is so much larger than the number 10.
Yeah, and it's difficult. There's a lot of duality with manifestation all the time, because you have to be able to live in your current reality and hold the one that you want and trust that it's coming, but also trust in an amount of divine timing, in an amount of I need to have had this experience, to have unlocked this, to know this, to have met this person, for this thing to happen, that everything's coming in at exactly the right time. Because if tomorrow you woke up with absolutely everything that you were trying to manifest and your whole reality had changed, you wouldn't be able to hold that. You wouldn't be the person that's had enough experience in whatever it is that you're meant to have had, to hold it. And it's like manifestation isn't something that is going to help you skip the journey of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's still a path, and there's still living to be doing, and we shouldn't be trying to manifest instead of living the life. You know what I mean? There's like
Yeah.
there's that thing. So this is where the stepping stones really come in. It's like, well, why would you do that? You have to be able to hold the thing and also trust that it's coming at the right time.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think another thing that and I really love to get your opinion on this. There's a lot of especially in like the 2x versus 10x, they talk a lot about goal setting and you see
Yeah.
a lot of these really successful entrepreneurs setting these goals. But then it seems like part of manifesting is to not be attached to the outcome and to be open to however it comes in. And so I'm kind of the belief that like the feeling that I want right now is to have a successful podcast. But if actually it's something totally different and I'm guided to like drop the podcast tomorrow, that is what I would do. So I'm just like, I don't fully understand goal setting with manifestation and like how those two should go together.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of guidance that comes up, and I think that what you're learning from whatever it is you were guided to do up until that point is what's going to then help you into the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of discernment that needs to happen between, are you giving it up, not you specifically, but are you giving something up because it's actually the right step to go into something bigger,
Mm-hmm.
or are you not trusting to see it through?
Right.
And there's goals and things that you want, and you can manifest anything. So that's always there. If you wanted 30,000 people on the podcast, you could have that by the end of next month. There's billions of people in the world listening to podcasts. It's really that want to learn about this kind of thing, right? It's a really popular topic, so there would be nothing stopping you. But if also you felt like tomorrow, oh God, I learned that thing, and if I apply it to this other thing, and then that becomes the business, right? There's like alignment, discernment, following your intuition, and allowing your goals to be malleable. Because if you felt like you wanted to drop the podcast, it wouldn't be your goal to have 30,000 people listen to it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we don't have to be so I think it's attachment to outcomes. Yeah. And it's allowing ourselves to, when we learn things, we change what we want. We know better, we do better, we move better. We invest in our time and our energy in different ways. And so when you have that, if it changes what you want, allow that to be a part of the fun journey of life.
Yeah.
Nothing's set in stone because it was something you wanted a month ago.
Absolutely. So you think it like still set the goal, still have that, but then just be open to if it seems like you're guided in a direction towards something bigger, not necessarily giving up on something, then just be open to changing the goal.
Yeah, move in the direction that you're guided to. So I'm always guided to talk about manifestation and, put body magic out there daily. That feels really divinely guided. But another thing and another part of the business that I have is I run an Instagram theme page with like success quotes, and I talk about business on there, and I talk about branding. I wouldn't necessarily have those things at the same place. I started that in September because it was something I felt really aligned to do, but I didn't feel like I needed to give up my other goals. I have this, I have a big capacity of receiving. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm just going to have one business and that's the business. I feel like I could have 10 and juggle it all, and it would all still work if that was what I wanted at the time. So it's that allowance to have your goals be and look different to what other people think is okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we first talked and you were telling me, how you're going to do this full-time dance show in Germany mm-hmm. for however many weeks, and you also do this, I was like, wow, she's so like multifaceted. And I love that because I feel like society encourages us to put ourselves in a box and like define and label who we are. And even though I've come so far in the past year in terms of like opening my eyes to, everything that's possible for me, I still find myself trying to like define the work that I do and like the space that I'm in, which to a certain extent, can be helpful from a business perspective, but just I want to be more open to not limiting myself. So yes, I can focus on this area, and yes, I can talk about this, and yes, I can also do this.
I guess you get to redefine it mm-hmm. as many times as you want. It's your work.
Yeah.
It's your gift. And just because it's work. So we're talking about like businesses in the coaching space and manifestation that fits in within like a business model, I guess. That's only really been around the last 4 or 5 years. And people are saying it works in one certain way, but I don't think that's the truth. I think it's worked in our way, and lots of people have joined and ridden that wave, and that's really cool, but I don't believe it to be the only way. I think you can have all the things all the time. So I came out of dancing retirement for, at my age, I'm a pretty old professional dancer. I was, I had 15 years on most of the girls I was dancing with, but it didn't define my time there. And it didn't stop me from going for the job or going after it or wanting it, or, that box that I placed on myself, because I believe that I can have it all. Right. Like if I want to be a professional dancer and I want to go to the best show in Germany, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to have that opportunity, and I'm still going to run the business, and it still gets to make sales, even though I'm not making much content because I don't have too much time to give to all the things, but it all still works. People still reach out to me. Brands still want to work with me. It's all still working because I hold availability for it all.
Yeah. And if someone has a manifestation that they're really trying to bring into fruition, but it just feels like they're getting stuck or frustrated or like it's not going anywhere, what would your advice be to that person?
You're in the lack gap. You're in the lack gap. If it feels frustrating, if it feels hard, if it feels like it's not coming in, it is you. I'm sorry, it's not the universe. it's not the universe. I think that there's two sides to every manifestation. There's the thing that you want, and then the lack of the thing that you want. And if you're in frustration of it, you're in the lack. You're in the energy of not having it and it being annoying. Because the energy of having it and feeling into that would bring you joy.
Right. And how do you switch that?
You just take a second, like what would it feel like to have it? And if you can't think about that experience, find the next best experience that you've had that would be an associated feeling. So if you're trying to, let's think. Okay, so if you're trying to call in more money, or you want a pay rise or something, and you can't feel into more money, you're just in lack, it's really hard to make ends meet, all of these different things. Think about that very first time, the very first job you ever had, and you got a paycheck. And how exciting it was to receive that money for something you did. You almost can't believe it, can you? Someone's paid, I've got money in my account that I've never ever had before, that very first paycheck, that feeling there, you can replicate it, right? You've had something similar. Same as if you are wanting to call in a partner. Maybe your last relationships haven't worked out, but at some point in those relationships, you will have felt loved and cared for. And so you pick that feeling, you tune into that feeling, and you put it into almost like a future memory, if you like. So take what you've experienced, make it real to you, and then add it into what you're creating, in the forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And talk to me more about feeling manifestation in the body and your concept of body magic.
Yes. So lots of people teach, and now this thing of manifestation with affirmations and thinking about it works for a lot of people. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm saying it didn't work for me. It was too abstract for me to be like, I own my own house in London, or I am in this kind of relationship, or I do these kind of dance jobs. I'd be like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel any attachment to that. So when I started being like, okay, so what would, I don't know, it feel like to have this thing? When I tuned in, I was like, oh, okay, but if I feel it in the body, if I actually smile, if I articulate it a little bit, if I move into it, suddenly my body's activated. And then what was happening was there was tiny little shifts, tiny little incremental shifts in terms of my happiness and aligned conversations and situations and small opportunities. And I clicked that this is how it happens. It's not that we sit down and do a visualization and then a few weeks later, the big manifestation shows up. It starts to show up very quickly, but in teeny tiny ways, and you have to be available for those things. When your brain goes oh, I think why don't you just check that thing? Or why don't you just look at this thing? if you just move on with your life doing exactly what you've done, you've missed it already. So it's about tuning into the body and how you feel about different things and making it like, I call it like tingly under the tits, which is where like in my body and underneath, I can create what feels like moving energy. And everybody can do that. I'm not special. I've labeled it, I've called it something, I've talked about it. But articulating it in the body in that kind of way, like really trying to have a momentum of feeling of the experience of your desire rather than the thing. So it's not the car, it's how you feel when you drive in it. It's how easy it is to pack up all your things with the school kids and the bags and the things, and you can shut. How does that feel so relaxed rather than being like, oh, the car might not start or whatever. So it's like creating lived experiences that are attached to feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I think just to kind of highlight how much that works, like we all know what anxiety feels like in our body. Like we all
Yeah,
know when we're afraid, when we're anxious, when we're stressed, like how that feels. And
yeah.
it like comes over us and it causes a lot of people illness. And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if that can be true, and that helps us to survive and signals to us that something isn't right and we need to make changes, why can't the reverse be true? Why can't we feel what it feels like to have these things that we're calling in? So I absolutely love
Yeah.
that concept.
Like the body is as much of a computer as the brain. When
Mm-hmm.
you know that something's not right, it's not your brain that's like, "Ooh, something isn't right." It's like it's a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's visceral. It's like it's your first indicator before the brain can conceptualize it and give it a label and do all the things. Your body's already felt something,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is why, manifesting's so great, because you can start to feel into things that you maybe haven't experienced before that you want to call in.
Right. Right. And so when you're trying to feel these feelings in your body, are you doing like a meditation and visualizing them and then kind of seeing how that would feel in your body, or how do you go about
Yeah,
that?
so I've always found it really hard to visualize. Like
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that can close my eyes and see visions and pictures. That's not me. I close my eyes, it goes black. Like some moving lights, but I'm not visualizing how lots of people talk about it. It's not my experience of visualization, which is why like I do close my eyes and I sit there, but I have more of a like feeling, an imagination, a walkthrough of what that experience would be like, much in the same way as I do when I'm dancing and I need to rehearse a number and I don't have time or I don't have space, that I would sit there and move my body and take myself through it and feel what it's like to be in the space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you sort of lose, I don't want to say you lose concept of the body because you need to be attached to that feeling, but I lose concept of what's around it, and I allow myself to be in what would be a different environment in the body. People talk about that more like it's astral travel, which I don't think it really is, because I'm not leaving to go somewhere else, but I'm definitely taking my body into an alternate place than where I am.
Yeah, no, I think that's so cool. And whether you believe in manifesting or not, whether you're trying to manifest or not, just like understanding more about the feelings in your body and how it is affecting your day-to-day life is huge. And like going back to the stress stuff, I had a lot of health issues for a long time, and doctors would always tell me, it's your stress. You need to focus on your stress. And I was like, this is BS. Like, I need you to just like give me another way to solve it. And then this past year, I removed all the stress from my life, and like, ta-da, I feel so much better,
Yeah,
When we
absolutely.
listen to our bodies, it's like crazy the amount of things that can change.
It really is, and it's the same as when you nourish your body properly with
Mm-hmm.
food and with exercise and with fresh air and water and all of those things. You feel much better. You have better energy levels. You have better moods. Your day goes better. You become more successful. Like they're tiny small things that when you look after your body, you can be more in tune with the connections that it has. Now, when you're masking those connections with whatever whatever it is, unhealthy food, Netflix. No, I'm not saying that I don't do that. I've watched Netflix today, but I also, I'm very aware that I just have one house to live in, and I want to love this house, and I want to take care of it, and I want it to feel really good. And I want to feel good about myself as well. And to me, those things are all sort of going hand in hand, and it's nothing to do with what you look like. It's really a feeling.
Yeah, and I think so much of spirituality is like trying to access the 5D and go somewhere else outside of your body. But I've been, trying to raise my frequencies and all that kind of stuff, and it was like the part that I was missing was the fact that like I am a human having a human experience. I have this body for a reason, and it doesn't matter if I spend all day focusing on getting my mind and my spirit to the frequency. If I don't do things to bring my body along with me, I'm never going to get there. And like, we are just not meant to neglect or ignore our human bodies. And the most spiritual people understand that and take care
Yeah.
of their vessel more than anyone else, really.
Yeah, because it's your place of peace, I think. So in the same way that you can't use manifestation to skip the human experience, you can't use manifestation to skip finding yourself and to skip loving yourself. Because that isn't the work. You're not trying to manifest a different version of yourself before you've understood and fully loved the version that you are now. And I do think it really, you do manifest in correlation to your healing and your self-love and your self-respect and your self-trust. If you don't have those things for yourself, it's going to be very, very difficult to move mountains with manifestation. It's not that it doesn't work for everybody. It's just that some people are so in love with who they are, they're ready to bring in different things and trust themselves and move in a different way than other people. And I think that, healing and self-love is a really foundational part. Loving your body is a really foundational part of manifestation, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Are you of the belief that in order to call in new things to your life, you have to make space for them by removing other things, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that it helps. I think
Hmm.
clearing clutter does clear space. Removing things from your body, from your world, does clear space. But I don't ever think there's anything that we have to do to
Yeah.
be prepared. There's no conditions. And this is like a slightly bigger concept, but that we're receiving and we're manifesting in accordance to our own beliefs. So if your belief is that you need to release and let go before something else will come in, that will forever be your experience. If you don't want that to be a belief and you don't want it to be a stepping stone in your manifestation journey, then it doesn't have to be. Manifestation and body magic works for me because I believe that that's the manifestation method that works.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I was somebody that believed the 369 method worked, then that would be what I was preaching. So it's really about creating a set of beliefs that you feel are in accordance with what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And what you want to believe and how you want life to work for you. Almost like, I call them energetic rules. I take people through this, like, what are your energetic rules for how you want it to work? Not how I'm telling you it works for me, but how do you want it to work for you?
Right. Yeah. I've seen a couple of posts on TikTok about the 369 method, and I have never watched them long enough to figure out what it is because I just like, I don't know, something in me is just like, it's not for me, but like,
I think
what
you
is
write it
that?
out 3 times in the morning, 6 in the afternoon, and 9
Oh,
at night.
okay.
To me, that would feel like a handwriting exercise.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. It's not my jam. It's not what I turn to my journal for. I do have a journal. I do write things down. I do find it powerful for sifting through what it is. And it's also a way that I channel. So writing, very powerful tool. Writing out an I have sentence that many times a day and then going about your daily life without creating an experience of how it feels sounds like a very long-winded way
Yeah.
of getting there. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying that sounds long-winded to me. That
Yes.
sounds like not where I would want to put my time and energy.
Right. I could see how that would work for some people, and I could also see why every single time I see it, like I don't even stick around long enough to figure out what it is. I'm just like, it's not speaking to me, you know?
Yeah, and it depends as well. Are you learning to manifest because you want to be a co-creator and because you want the most out of your experience of life as being magical? Or are you learning to manifest because you want a quick fix to something? You can do both. There's no right or wrong on how people want to live. But it's like, what are you doing it for? To me, manifestation is part of my spiritual journey. It's part of deepening my connection to source. It's part of deepening my spiritual and psychic abilities. It's part of a bigger thing constantly. It's the one thing I talk about on TikTok, but it's not my spiritual practice.
Yeah.
In life day to day. It's not how I'm just trying to live by manifesting different things. I'm trying to have the most lived life experience, like out in the real world. So it's knowing what you wanting it for, and then being okay with where you are on your journey. Like if someone's listening to this and they're like, I just want to manifest very quickly an amount of money, I'm like, yes, go for it, because that's what you want and you're going to get it because it's in alignment with what you want. Just check your energy, just tune your energy in, right? But if you're saying you want that, but actually what you want is a really deep knowing and connection to yourself, then you're kind of going to be missing the mark all the time.
Right. Another thing that I found unique about the way that you explain manifesting, and particularly manifesting money, is the idea that money is masculine, or seeing
Yeah.
money as masculine, and then
Yeah.
being able to like attract it in your feminine energy. Can you
Yeah.
talk more about that?
Yeah, because I like to feel sexy all the time, and I like my manifestations to be sexy, and I talk about manifesting with pleasure quite a lot. And I like to feel like that in my day-to-day life. And so it had no sense to me to make money feminine, because I am trying to call in masculinity. And so with that same concept that I get to make the rules and that it gets to work for me, how it gets to work for me, and that it's my version of my own magic, I'm going to get to play with this kind of concept. Now, when I was first playing with it, I had been single for quite a long time, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can do this with calling in a partner. And I did quite quickly call in a relationship. And then after that, after I started applying it to money, I was like, oh, I get it. I understand now. It's polarity. We're in a relationship. There's give and take. I need to be in my feminine and ready to receive it in that kind of way. And I've got a couple of really great masterclasses that really deepen into this, into healing the masculine, because we have a lot of resentment towards men, generally. A lot of, with the feminist movement, and a lot of things where we've been striving for equality and striving to be heard and striving to be seen all the time. Within that, we've had to drop a lot of our femininity because it was seen as weak, and it was the cause of a lot of the reason why we weren't seen as equal. So there was a kind of a lot of work to do around that. But it's a very, very fun concept to play with if you haven't thought about money that way. If you think of money as like wafty and coming to you whenever it feels and being in its feminine, then like that doesn't work for me. I want money to be sturdy. I want it to be reliable. I want it to show up. I want it to be structural. I want it to be attracted to be. I want it to be magnetized in. And so this is the concept in terms of energetics that works for me.
Yeah. And so, in order to call that in, then do you just focus on being, feminine yourself and just kind of thinking of it as a masculine? Is that your process?
Yeah, sometimes I think about it like that. Sometimes I imagine it like as a person.
Okay.
Sometimes it's an interaction on the street. It can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've had a flirty moment with somebody that's felt like, now when I'm talking about like masculine, feminine energies, I'm not talking about gender roles. We have both masculine and feminine, everybody, whatever gender you are, within us. But if you've had an interaction where you felt like the receiver, like the more passive, the more feminine, if you like, the receiving energy, with somebody who's been like a giver of the energy, and it's felt quite good and it's felt quite fun, take that interaction and make that person, whatever they were, whatever they did, money, and
I
relive that
love that.
interaction.
So cool. I love that concept. I'm definitely going to
Yeah, and
try
I think, I
that.
mean, this is really how I do a lot of my manifesting. Like if I've had an interaction, if I can, this is what I'm saying, is when you can take it from a past memory and make it a future memory, you're already linked to it.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I think that's so helpful because yeah, then it's something you've already felt it, you've already experienced it. It's an actual memory that you have. And then just tweaking it a little bit and seeing it as your future, that seems way more doable and able to feel it than just like coming up with something that you've
Yeah.
never experienced before.
And quick, my God, people want to spend hours manifesting a day. God, we haven't got time. We haven't got
Right.
time. Just do it 20 seconds, 30 seconds, make it quick, and then trust that you've done enough.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Yeah, and I think I've heard a lot of manifesting is like doing less or like not working as hard, or not having to do as much. What do you think about that?
My concept and belief is that I'm manifesting naturally all day, every day, all the things.
Mhm.
And so if I tune into something, great, maybe I've given it a little rocket boost, but I've not manifested in a day because I haven't thought about it because I've been busy living. I don't think it's about doing more or doing less. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, I think is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. You're not manifesting if you haven't done a 20-minute meditation before you go to sleep.
Hmm.
Or you're not manifesting because you're in a bad mood or it means that you're not going to get it or it's overridden all the work that you've done. I just don't hold those beliefs. It's
Right.
all happening. The minute I have a thing about something I want and I can tune into it, I know that it's going to come and I trust that it's coming when it's coming.
Right. And if someone has more masculine energy or resonates with being more masculine, would you then recommend that they see money as feminine?
Yeah, I'd keep
Okay.
it in a relationship of polarity. I think that that is really a great a great way, and it's something that we can all, everyone can really tune into that. You know, that's how magnets work. So
Yeah.
it's like okay, yeah, I see. That's already logical. It's already something. It's already a concept that we understand.
Absolutely. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about manifesting?
That you're going to think about it, and then your new car is going to come rolling up into your drive the next
Yeah.
day, or like, I think actually when people talk about manifesting specific people, this really is something I don't believe in. Now I'm all for people believing what they want to believe, but this one I think is really cuts you off from magic and opportunity.
Because you have a specific person in mind, but they
You
might
have a
not be the person for
specific, you
you.
have a specific thing. Yeah. That, and that person, you can absolutely manifest specific people. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's possible, but you might not end up with the person that you're meant to be with. It might not be a happy union. It just cuts you off from the magic. It might be exactly the right person, but I just think better to stay open.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's probably similar if you're holding on to like a career goal as tightly and you're not opening up to the possibilities that something totally different could come in and you're missing on that magic. Like you can manifest that
Yeah.
other goal, but you might get there and be like, oh, something's missing, you know?
Yeah, and that ties back to like when you're letting go and manifestation and goal setting. It's like let your goals be malleable
Yeah.
with how you feel every day. And honestly, if they change every day, they change every day. And that's also fine.
Right.
Let that be
Yeah.
fine. Let it not be that society has said that we need to have specific goals that include, going to university and getting a steady job and getting married and having kids and taking 2 weeks vacation, and this is the way you do it, right? You don't have to live in accordance to that. That is not the magic of the world.
Right. And that's the way that you do it till you die. I think that's the part that like really got me is I was like, oh my gosh, I have like 40 more years of this.
Yeah, and you know what? For a lot of people, though, that's their absolute goals and things that they want to do. And I love that, because the world turns and the world, you know, works, and how we have economies and we have politics because of that, and because of those people, will be eternally grateful. I'm just not one of those people. And so I've allowed myself the permission not to have to live by that set of standards and rules as well, which I think is the more difficult bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you also talk about noticing the different types of abundance that you have. So like for me, I've really been trying to call in financial abundance, but anytime I get too fixated on that, I have to like open my eyes to the fact that I have a lot of different forms of abundance in my life in terms of relationships, where I live, my, housing situation, even being able to like call in all these wonderful guests on this podcast. Like I may not have the amount of, followers that I want, but the amount of wonderful, amazing people like you that have said yes is incredible. And like, I have to notice that. So, yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that concept.
Well, first of all, it just was such a pleasure to have you on it. For people that don't know the backstory, the same day that you reached out to me, I had said no to a podcast because I wasn't sure, and I was like, but it was something that I was calling in at the time. I was like, I just want to do some more real life business things, and this came in on the day. So that's the backstory of how we ended up here. Please ask me the question again, because I've forgotten.
Oh, I'm just recognizing the different types of abundance.
Yes. So like people talk about abundance and money as being the same thing, and I think we really have to detach these as two different concepts, because an abundance is just an amount, right? And cash is cash. And different things, different concepts completely, but they really get bundled into one. But yeah, are you warm today when it's cold outside? Do you have more than one pair of socks? Do you have water coming out of the tap? Can you have a shower today and wash your hands and do a load of washing and put your dishwasher on? If you opened the window, would you get really nice fresh air come in? And if you shut it, would you be able to warm up the house again? Do you have friends that you can depend on? Do you have a phone that you can call somebody on? Can you turn lights on and off? Have you got a pen and paper to write your ideas down and your goals? Can you get from A to B on public transport, in a car? Can you put shoes on? All of these different things, right, is a form of abundance. It's an amount, and it's not abundance in comparison to anybody else. I see that a lot. Like, if you've got this, this, and this, then you're more abundant than this amount of people in the world. And it's like, their abundance they're not abundant because they don't have these things. There's a different kind of thing. Maybe they're more connected to source, or they have more family, or they have, they experience more laughter, or whatever it is coming in all different forms all the time. So when you start to notice and live by that, you're not then attached to the anxiety of not having enough, because how could you not have enough when you have all of this? You can want more, you can have what you have and want more, but you kind of like skip that scarcity, because how could you possibly not have enough?
Yeah, that kind of was a game changer for me. And anytime that I feel myself getting too caught up in, this isn't working, this isn't happening fast enough, I have all these like real world pressures that are like falling down on me. I'm pretty much the only one that's putting time pressure on myself. Like there's not another single person in my life that's putting time pressure on myself. It's just me.
Yeah.
And like if if my blessings didn't come in, or my manifestations didn't come in for another 6 months, I am not going to lose the roof over my head. I'm just not. Like, I have
Yeah.
enough that that's not going to happen. And
And
just
if they
even,
didn't come in at all, there would be 20 other things that did come in
right.
unexpected.
Yeah.
That's the magic of it. That's why when I talk about like manifestation and a feeling in the body, it's like you tune into the energy of the kind of thing that you want, and then you allow it to come in the form that it comes in the time that it comes in.
Yeah.
And life is much more fun that way because it's so much more unexpected. You're not like, right, in 1 month, I'll have hit this many followers, and then somebody will have picked up the podcast, and then I'll have this thing and that thing, and then that's my whole year planned. Yay! And go, right? Because what happens in between? What happens when you don't go out, and so you don't meet that new friend, or, you know, you don't have this conversation that leads you to think about something else, or whatever it is, these different things. The magic of life is living. And yes, we get to create, and yes, we get to live how we want, but you have to be brave enough to hold that standard for yourself. The standard of the unexpected, the standard of the unexplained, the standard that it just gets to be how you want it to be, or better. This or something better, this or something better.
Right. Yeah. And I think we're always focused on, I mean, it's kind of that lack mindset, but we're always focused on what we don't have I tend to like want to manifest something for a long time. And then when it happens, I'm on to the next thing instead of being like, wow, how incredible is it that just happened? Like I live in a new town, and I've been trying to move here for like 2 years, and everything just lined up in the most perfect, beautiful way this past year. And shortly after getting here, I was like, on to the next manifestation. It's like, just take a moment to realize that like the universe moved freaking mountains for you to be here, you know?
100%. And also use it as an example of how quickly you realigned the reality that you wanted is how quickly you can realign to any reality at any time. But it's just, you know, it's that ability to hold it.
Right. I have a listener email for us, but is there anything else that we didn't cover, like services that you have or other things about manifestation that you wanted to talk about first?
No, if people want to come and try body magic, head over to my TikTok. I've got loads of pinned videos there where you can try the meditation for free, and then just come and see if you like it. Come and see if it sits well with you.
Amazing. I love it so much. Okay, here we go. Dear Katie and guest, I'm feeling really stuck right now. I've been trying to manifest my dream career for almost a year now, but I feel like I'm getting nowhere. I try to focus on how it would feel to have that career and align myself with that vibration, but then I slip back into feeling frustrated and impatient. How do you know if a manifestation is actually coming, or if the universe is signaling to you that it's time to change what you are trying to manifest? Any tips on keeping the faith and believing in divine timing? Thanks so much for all you do.
Yes. You really just have to decide. It's really nothing more than like deciding. If that's the career you want, then it's divinely guided. Like the things that you want are divinely guided, right? You want them because they're available to you. So you have to decide that that's definitely the career that you want, and then decide to hold the faith. Decide not to feel stuck. Decide not to feel frustrated. And I know that that's really annoying advice, but the thing is that you are in control. You are the energy and the frequency, and you know what you're putting out is tuning in to what it is that you want. So if you're really talking about like lack and being stuck and frustration, that's the lack gap. That's the lack of what it is that you want, you know. And then also look at what's the actual action that you're taking to get that dream career. Because are you doing everything exactly the same and just hoping and praying that a new career is going to fall into your lap? Or are you reaching out to people? Are you taking like what are you doing to create it? When I finished my job, so last year I was working full time, and I wanted to go back to dancing, and it was all, you know, all the things were happening, and I moved back from LA to London, and the only thing I had for income was my business, and I'd never done it full time. So I went full time into the business, and I wanted to try and build a dance career. And then I broke my foot. And so there was all these things that on the outside you'd be like, oh, well, it's just not meant to be, except it was what I wanted. Right? So it's like, okay, there's something that I want. I don't believe the universe tests us But when situations come up, you're tested in your resolve of what you want. So that's really where it's at. So how resolved are you to want this new career? What are you willing to change and do to have it? You want a different lifestyle, you have to be willing to give up what you've got now. You want to be a different person, you have to be willing to give up who you are. It's a very brave path to take. So you start to show up for yourself, start to do all the things. You will be guided and you will be helped and you'll be given everything that you need on the journey. But you take the step that illuminates the path. The path doesn't illuminate for you. Do you know what I mean? It's the other way around. You have to go first.
Yeah. And I do think that, so at least for me, there are things in my life that just like flat out don't work out. But then from what you're saying, then I like decide, okay, that's actually not what I wanted and I'm open to something else versus like, no, if that's actually what I wanted, I would have just kept going with that. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think, we're human. So there's been times in my business where I've really wanted to chuck it all in. But at the end of the day, I want a life of freedom and I want to live on my own terms. And a business is a way to do that.
Yeah.
So I was connected to my resolve to have the end result of what I wanted. Now, if you notice, what I wasn't trying to manifest was a successful business.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not attached to the business as being the way of it giving me that lifestyle. It was just one way that I could see at the moment, and I was committed to the end result of living life on my own terms, waking up when I want to wake up, working from anywhere in the world, being free to go and do dancing, right? That was I want my calendar empty so that when a dance job comes up, I can go and I can go spend 6 months somewhere dancing, doing what I want to do. But I'm not like, a business is the only way. I'm just saying it's a way that I had now. So in the days where I don't want to do that, it's like, okay, well, how committed am I to the goal? That's the question. It's not how committed am I to the business. Like, what's the bigger goal? What's the equal to what I'm getting? Now, for people in business, you'll notice that this is business advice, because what are you trying to sell people? What is your business about? Is it about like telling people how to do something? Or is it the goal past it? Are you helping people to get to the goal past it?
Right. And I think we're taught so much about divine timing in spirituality and believing in divine timing and waiting on divine timing. Is there a point where we can decide to have something happen faster or slower, or is divine timing just kind of like set?
I think it's both. Really, I think it's both. We get to play in the energetics of both, and you get to make up the rules. So I like to believe in divine timing because I like the people to come in at the right time. I like the jobs to come in at the right time. I'm very relaxed in that. I like to be laid back about it. But if I was someone that wanted my manifestations faster, my set of beliefs would be, I get to speed this up and choose to have it whenever I want it.
Yeah.
And that would be the set of beliefs that work. So it's really that, like, coming back to your energetic rules. For anyone that's listened to this would be like where I would start. I wouldn't be like, what do you get clear on what you want or anything like that. It'd be like, how do you want it all to work for you? What kind of creator, and not like, I don't mean online creator, what kind of co-creator in terms of your magic do you want to be? What are those? How does it work for you?
I love that. Yeah. It's like, I'm also just also starting to figure out my relationship between destiny and free will, and like the fact that I believe we're on destined paths. We came here for, to have certain experiences, but there are also so many points in our lives where like the universe gives us the pen and they're like, okay, go ahead. There's a blank page. Like, what do you want to do? So just kind of playing with how you see that, and like really that co-creator piece of it, that like you are part of creating it.
Yeah, because I don't think destiny is like an end point. I think we have lots of destiny moments all the time. Yeah. Like, you meet your best friends, that's you were destined to be best friends. You meet the person you're going to marry, you were destined to have that. You have your child, you were destined to have that child. And the moments in between are free will. But I don't think like my destiny is to be a manifestation teacher and now I'm on that path, so everything's going to work out, right? This is just one section of my life. Yeah. This is just one part. Am I going to be doing it this time next year? Who knows? I've got no idea. So, I'm open to it all, but destiny to me is not like a life path that I must be on all the time to kind of reach an end goal, to reach the next level. It's not a game to me in that kind of way. I don't need to prove myself by reaching my destiny. Right. That seems like a pressure that would give me anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that exact pressure has given me anxiety.
That's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And how I want to feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, I mean, when it comes down to it, so much of what you've been saying is like, whatever you believe in, that's going to work. So like, yeah, start with how you want to create this, how you want this to come in, because that's going to be the way to do it.
And if you don't believe me that that's how it works, think about the negative things that you think always happen to you, that always happen to you. Now, I had a brilliant example of this while I was away and I was working, which was that the coffee machine at breakfast, every time I pressed it, needed to be filled with milk. So I never got a coffee at when I really needed it. I had to wait for it to be filled. And I was like, oh, it's always me every time. And I was lighthearted about it. I was joking about it. I was like, oh my God, it's always me. Do you see? It's always me. And I affirmed it and I affirmed it. And it's happened to me every day, I think, bar from 2 or 3. Now that is a perfect example of my set of beliefs, creating that experience, because the universe and the energetics really have no concept about what's good or bad. It's just responding to how we're thinking about something, or how we're feeling about something, how we're experiencing something. I really felt that in my body. I was laughing about it. I was connected to it. I was talking about it. I talked, other people saw it. It was it was an event of the day. And so it was.
Yeah.
So if you're not sure that it's happening, have a think about those kinds of things that are happening to you day to day. Do you always just miss a train? Mm-hmm. Does the bus always drive off? Are you always someone that gets splashed by puddles? Are you, I don't know, whatever it is. Do you always lose your keys? You always, whatever the things are, you are creating that experience.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's a very funny, lighthearted example, but would be very frustrating.
Yeah, but it's just, I'm just saying, I'm not having the perfect human experience. I'm not having the perfect manifestation experience. And I don't think that life is about that. Right. I think it's giving us examples all the time. For me, that was a very refreshing and humbling experience and reminder of how it's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. Let me tweak it. Let me fix it. 1, because I want my coffee when I want it. And 2, because I don't want to do that with something that I really want.
Right. Well, I have a few last little questions for you if you're up for it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Ooh, just start to love yourself earlier.
Yeah.
Just earlier. I really waited till I was in my 30s to do that. Yeah. If I could have done that from when I was a teenager, I think I would have had a different experience with relationships, a different experience with my career, a different experience with the things I would have gone for had I loved and, really loved and really trusted myself.
Yeah. In your darkest hours, what keeps you going?
Family. And knowing that whatever is happening in these hours are preparing me for the things that I want. And it's not like you have to have a bad experience to have a good one. That's not the belief. But there is something in everything that teaches you for the next thing.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm going to use that in my...
And also, I want to have a big life of big experiences of all the things. So that's part of that.
Absolutely.
That's part of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's one thing you've done for yourself recently that you are grateful to yourself for?
Oh, going back to dancing. I really wasn't sure, and there was all the things and the broken foot shenanigans and just lots of different signs, but I really held on to that dream and just had the most incredible experience. Now this show was the best team, and really was the best show, and it's quite a famous circus. It had very famous acts in it, and it just created memories and 5 new amazing friends. So I'm very grateful that I made that choice, because it was a big shift. Like, I had to move back from LA. I gave up a 9 to 5. I didn't have a job to go to. I had to hold a lot of faith. But it was the right thing. So that's what I'm grateful for. Mm-hmm.
So cool. What's one area where you're being a little too hard on yourself and you want to give yourself some grace?
Oh, always. Always, I don't think that I'm doing enough when I'm resting. I do rest, but I spend at least 40% of that time thinking I should be doing something else. So I'd like to give myself a little bit more grace. For example, today's the first day off I've had since the beginning of December, and it's January 9th. And I've still been working. So,
yeah, I mean, like, this is kind of work. So,
part of that is that I love to do it. And part of it is that I am ambitious and I am a go-getter. But I would like to give myself a little bit more rest grace. I think that not doing enough is ingrained in the women real hard.
Absolutely. And last question, if you could give one piece of advice or words of encouragement to someone just starting out on their spiritual journey, what would it be?
That the path that you're on is the one that's going to give you what you want. You're not giving anything up if where you are now isn't what you want. You're stepping closer to what it is. And I think, a lot of people talk about it in terms of like, having to let go and step away. And you do have to do all of those things. And it isn't easy, and it takes a lot of bravery. But really, you're always just stepping closer to what it is that you want rather than further away from what you've got. So it's just switching into that. I think whoever's listening to this, if you're at the beginning of your journey, you're incredibly brave. Yeah. I applaud you. Keep going.
Yeah, I love that. I think in a lot of ways, being at the beginning is when you have the most courage of all. You're like, okay, I'm going to totally change my life. I'm going to switch these things around. So I couldn't agree more.
Oh, and one last thing, don't compare yourself. Your magic can't be quantified and your magic can't be compared. It's the same when we're dancing. I talk about this when I'm teaching dancing. Like, what your magic and your talent and what you bring to the stage in your performance can't be compared to somebody else. It's different, and they're both beautiful and they're both magical. And that is the same with humans, and it's the same with whatever it is that you feel guided to bring forward or not. But it's like, you're not less than somebody else because you're perceiving them as more successful. Your magic is as powerful and potent and beautiful and all the things.
Absolutely. Love that so much. Well, Fiona, thank you so much. This has been absolutely incredible. I know I have homework that I'm excited to go work on, and I'm sure that the people listening will as well. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom, your love, and your light with me today.
Oh, I've absolutely loved every second. I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me on, because it was exactly the right podcast at exactly the right time. So thank you so much.
That wraps things up for this episode of Guided Souls. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go manifest all of the things. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It means more than you could possibly know. And if you are enjoying this podcast and you haven't already, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps me out so much. And I just really, really appreciate you guys and everyone who listens every week. It means so much to me. So as always, keep going. You're doing amazing. And I love you.